G'day guys, this is a video on ammonia that is generated by the consumption of proteins. So let's get into it. A lot of people out there tend to basically have this opinion that consuming far too much protein is going to create, far more ammonia, far more issues, stress on the liver to detox and stuff like that. That really you shouldn't be consuming more. It's the old sort of another one of those things that they basically make claims about and criticize meat eaters about. So let's just take a look at some stuff. Okay, so the biochemistry of ammonia. So ammonia production occurs in all tissues of the body during metabolism of a variety of compounds. Ammonia is produced in the metabolism of amino acids and other compounds which contain nitrogen. So obviously, because protein contains nitrogen, obviously they have this big fixation that it's a big problem because it produces a whole lot of ammonia. And that stresses the poor liver in that regard. Anyway, before I get into the actual study, we'll look at what knockout mice are all about. So knockout mice they're knocking out the activity of a gene that actually does something in the body, okay? So they use a method like mouse embryonic stem cells, genetically engineered, that's altered to basically alter that in the uterus of a host female. So mouse containing a mixture of genetic engineered cells and inner cell mass cells. So pretty much we want to produce mice that don't have a specific type of gene, so then we can experiment with them and work out what the hell's happening. Okay, so this is a study that I came across. Taurine transport deficiency impairs ammonia detoxification in mouse liver. So what they've got is a hepatic ammonia handling. So they're looking at the managing of the detoxification within the liver. So that's hepatic liver. It was analysed in taurine transporter knockout mice. So that means knockout, where they've removed the gene that does this. Surprisingly, hyperammonemia was present at an age of 3 and 12 months, despite normal tissue integrity. So they didn't see any deleterious effects on tissue at all, which is important. And they cover this part. The amino acid taurine is highly abundant in brain, liver, and other organs. I've discussed this before, the importance of taurine in these critical pieces of tissue. Cellular taurine concentrations are maintained at a high level through uptake by the taurine transporter, which in this case, the taurine transporter has been knocked out of these mice. Okay, functions of taurine in the body are remarkably diverse, and I've talked about this. Taurine has so many functions. Taurine acts as osmolyte, basically the osmotic pressure within the fluids, the sort of creating homeostasis for electrolyte type things. It really manages electrolytes in fluids, osmolytes. Okay, so antioxidant, I've covered that in terms of the heart and many other things, and brain and the liver, and a molecular chaperone, and promotes anti-inflammatory effects and modulates neurotransmission signaling. Anyway, studies from the knockout mice showed that lower taurine levels cause a variety of malfunctions in different organs in an age-dependent way between 14 and 20 months within a 1 year after birth. The knockout mice lose vision, suffer auditory problems. That's why I talk about tinnitus and things like that, that there's a strong associated studies with better hearing and taurine. Eat your meat, you'll get better hearing. Maintain vision, eat your meat, you'll maintain better vision. Olfactory and muscle dysfunction. Yes, we know that in terms of the vagunarized, weak muscle skeletal structures, lack of eating meat, which is high in taurine. Anyway, and it shows altered synaptic transmission in brain, obviously brain fogged vagoons. Again, the same problem. They've knocked out this in mice and they can see these sort of things, okay, at higher ages beyond 15 months. So it takes some time because the body has redundant systems in it can actually sort of adapt in a certain way. But eventually, these things do kick in. And we know with the bagoons, 5 years, some can sustain it a bit longer until they start suffering. And the older they are, they suffer much quicker and worse. So liver malfunctions develop, such as fibrosis. I've talked about fibrosis and using taurine to eliminate fibrotic tissue. Unspecified hepatitis, so more liver dysfunction and stuff like that, and tumor formations in the liver. So again, taurine, your meat eating comes to the rescue. However, the pathogenic events that precede such structural liver dysfunction in aged, knockout mice, which have basically got the taurine transporter that's been sort of genetically, they've knocked it out, the capacity to do this, remains unclear until now. So in the present study, we analyse effects of taurine transporter deficiency on hepatic ammonia handling in 3 12-month TT knockout mice. Our results suggest that taurine transporter deficiency impairs ammonia detoxification by previous scavenger cells in the liver, thereby inducing systemic ammonemia. Anyway, you know me with long words. This is explained by downregulation of ammonia transporter at the 3-month and tyrosine nitration inducing inactivation, which is glutamine synthesis at 12 months, and those due to oxidative nitrosate stress. The data also suggests that ammonia transporter expression can be at a site of controlled hepatic glutamine synthesis. So when you see GS, we're talking about glutamine synthesis. Anyway, I should have mentioned it first. I think they do. Oh yeah, they do up here. Yeah. So when we actually look, I'm not going to go into, I'll just cover this quickly. Taurine transporter deficiency in mice results in hyperammonemia and reduced glutamine formation in hepatic scavenger cells due to the impaired ammonia transport at 3 months of age and the tyrosine nitration dependent inactivation of glutamine synthesis in 12 months. We usually see it later on. The data suggests that downregulation of the ammonia transporter can be rate limiting. Yes, again, alcohol can do that as well. Excessive alcohol can affect the rate limiting effect of these things for the sense of glutamine in mice. I will just quickly, show these figures. As you can see, between the knockout mice and the control. But As you can see, the differences. You only see the differences much later on. And it's the same thing with humans. You know, we can deprive ourselves with taurine-rich foods because we still biosynthesize taurine endogenously. It does decline with age, and it does decline if you have a poor amino pool, that the essential amino acids, and vegans tend to suffer more of this. And that's why they suffer more hepatic issues, liver issues over time. Not us. The ammonia is not an issue as long as you've got enough taurine to deal with. So, and you can actually see this, that even with low taurine levels, have a shot. So, and as they point out here, ammonia is also, however, were no significant changes in liver from 3 to 12 months. This is really important in the knockout mice. Oops. So they didn't see significant stuff, okay, within these periods. This may indicate that decreased ammonia uptake due to the ammonia transport downregulation in liver from three-month-old mice, the ones that have got the knockout, is probably not compensated by the upregulation of ammonia transporting pores. At 12 months of age, however, GS activity in liver tissue was strongly decreased. This is where we see, you know, so you can eat kibble and do a lot of things for large parts of your life, potentially, or the mouse life in this case, but eventually it will catch up. And in these knockout mice, despite unchanged GS levels, protein expression is about 40%, also reflects analysis of hepatic glutamine formation in relation. We started seeing, and then there's a few, there's the other part down here. So here is, so I'm just ignoring all that. If people want to read it, they can read it. However, activation, all of that may be triggered, and this is the important, may be triggered by tumor necrosis factor A, which is significantly elevated in the blood of 9 to 15-year-old mice, a month-old mice. So even though they don't see significant stuff between 3 to 12 months, at 9 months, we're starting to see these inflammatory markers start increasing. You know, things are starting to catch up. At 12, it's definitely things are getting worse, up to, you know, 15 and onwards, but not in 3 months. So in the liver, TNF-alpha is mainly synthesized in cells, and TNF-alpha synthesis is suppressed by taurine. So you want to suppress tumor necrosis factor A in taurine in liver injury and inflammation. That's the importance of taurine. So this is the advantage of eating a species appropriate diet. You're going to get good levels of taurine throughout your whole life, even if you get into old age, and you're not going to have these problems. See, as you can see, even in the mice, it takes a lot of period. Remember, they live for 2 years. It takes a lot, like a number of years in human life before you really get a lot of damage. So it can take quite some time. So this whole myth that eating a lot of meat, you know, a lot of ammonia, and this is going to create problems and stuff like that in your liver and stuff like that is just bullshit. Even in the rats, it takes a long time when they've knocked out, but eventually it does catch up. But that shows you that if you're on a veganerized diet or a diet, vegetarian diet that is very poor, unless it's pescatarian, because fish do have quite a bit of taurine in them, and on a non-pescatarian vegetarian diet or a veganerized diet, you will over time cause more liver inflammation and injury over time. It does take time, but it will happen. It's like all the deficiencies. In this case, it's a taurine deficiency, but it will, which is a lack of eating enough meat, it will catch up. And remember, that a lot of oxalates in their diet deplete sulfur amino acids like taurine. So they're depleting these with their oxalates, and without enough taurine in there, they're actually over time, because they're not eating it, they will increase their liver injury and inflammation, and it will catch up to them. And if they're doing the sort of modern kibble approach of this, their SAD diet 2.0, it'll actually exacerbate this even further in that regard. And so these are really important things. Hyper and anemia has been shown to trigger cerebral RNA oxidation, not only in astrocytes, neurons, and brain slices in vitro. So that I don't really worry about the petri dish type stuff, but because it's not a full functioning body. But after people have died or rats have been killed, they do notice this damage when they do create these slices. But also in mice brains in vivo, that's the important thing. So we can't do experiments on humans and basically cut up their brains after to see what damage has happened. Not ethical. But we can do it to rats, and basically we notice that very high ammonia will cause these problems in the brain and disturb cerebral neurotransmission. So, this is a problem, but it's not a problem on the person eating a species-appropriate diet. It takes months before this bioaccumulation can actually build up and cause problems. But it's in either you've knocked out the taurine capacity to produce taurine, or you've basically reduced your consumption of taurine-rich foods like meat, like fish, and at the same time, you may increase your oxalate uptake from inappropriate foods as a vagoon, and as a consequence, you'll end up basically depleting even further those sulfur amino acids like taurine, increasing liver injury and inflammation. It's they who get these problems who are on a poor taurine diet because they're on a poor protein diet, not us. We are protected. Carnivores are actually way further protected than even people on a keto diet or some other diet, especially those who are keto cheats that eat a lot of these protein supplements and stuff like that, which is devoid of taurine. So I would say that also to bodybuilders: eat your fucking meat. Stop putting all those aminos down, those fake, poor utilized aminos. Eat eggs, eat steaks. That's what your body needs, and that's what your body will basically love you for it. You don't need carbs, and you don't need basically, aminos that are highly processed, high in deuterium, that basically come out of a factory that are basically devoid of taurine. Now, you could supplement with taurine, obviously, in that regard, but it's much better to get in a food's source. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Just shows the superiority of the carnivore diet against a vagoonerized lifestyle. Their diet will eventually create the conditions due to oxalates depleting these sulfur amino acids, plus their general lifestyle that actually is very poor. The foods that they consume are very poor in taurine, which is so essential. And the older somebody gets on a vagoonerized or vegetarian diet, they will be far more deficient, because taurine synthesis declines after 40 and accelerates markedly after 65. If you're on such a diet, especially in older age, you are asking for trouble. It's an amino transporter as well, essential to get more aminos in. So you will accelerate not only liver harm, but also increasing ammonia in your system, which will have damaging effects to your brain. You will also have negative effects on many other organ systems, and beyond that, you'll also reduce the transport of other aminos from those plants because you don't have enough taurine, which is an amino transporter, and you will accelerate osteoporotic or musculoskeletal degradation. Your diet is wrong. It may disengage the Randall cycle and give you some weight loss, especially in younger age. But ultimately, the deficiencies are really going to harm you, and you need to get off that species inappropriate diet. People on a species appropriate diet, eating a lot of meat, do not have to worry. We get shitloads of taurine in the meat, and that, even into old age, that extra taurine will basically be protective, will protect our livers, our brains, and our other tissues. And our hearts will love us because they love liver and heart loves and brain love taurine. So I'll leave you with that message. Keep eating meat, and don't be discouraged by the crackpots out there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. See yous.